neutral. I'll say like why I wanted to talk about this week.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, I'm gonna pick your brain. I'm gonna pick your little black book. Actually, like Jessica, nobody knows about this besides you and I.
Mm-hmm.
Do I look okay, or should I fix the lighting, or should I fix something?
I think you look fine.
Okay, cool. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to the Primas podcast. I am Cindy. Hey, and this is my beautiful Prima Jess.
Hey, Prima, how's it going?
It's going. It's a little rough this week, but I made it. It's Friday. I'm alive, so it's great. How's it going with you? How's LA?
Good. This was a short week, but I feel like the universe was like, nope, we're going to make up for Monday because you had it off. So we're just going to throw everything on you.
I totally forgot that we had Monday off.
Mm-hmm.
That's messed up because it should feel like less pressure. And I felt like this was a 6-day work week versus a 4-day work week.
You're right. I felt it too. It was just intense. Yeah. I'm still adjusting to my new role in downtown LA, and it's way more intense than my chill like Santa Monica position.
Yeah, shout out if you guys ever want to meet the Prima, she'll be in Skid Row. So that's where she hangs out most of her time.
Yeah, that's true. That's where you can find me.
Yeah, so that's cool. Well, today we have a spicy little topic. It's not that spicy. I mean, maybe it might be, I don't know. But Jessica is going through a life revelation, as we all are. And she said, I'm going to quote my Prima, "Once you burn your little black book, you've raised your standards." Please elaborate.
Yes, definitely. So last week when I mentioned the little black book, I was talking to my sister about the episode. And she was like, dude, what the hell's a little black book? And I chuckled at that comment because I'm like, oh, you Gen Zer. That's before you had like social media. And I referenced it because I also had just finished watching like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And like Will Smith talks about like giving Carlton the little black book. And I was like, I thought it was so funny. And it made me think about my little black book. So like, for those who don't know, a little black book is like where you keep what your booty calls, what would we call side base?
Yeah. And I was just going to say, we also millennials, I don't feel like had the need for a little black book. So now it's like a metaphor, right? Because did you ever have, I never wrote anyone's number down because by the time I could date and get numbers, I had my Nokia. So.
Or even like a pager would have qualified as like under the black book, but no, you're right. Then by the time you got a phone, I had a phone in high school, and high school was when I got my phone. So you're right. There was no need for actually like carrying around a little black book. And if I met someone, write your number on here, bro. It's like, no, we're just like, so send me a text.
Not just booty calls. I think also like people like to dig into their past. Like there's so many memes where it's like, even though you're feeling lonely, don't text him. Or just because you're bored, don't text her, don't reply or whatever. So I think it's anybody from your past that you're still planning to keep ties with because they're still, you have access to them either through social media, you get the phone. Now it's different because before it was just phone number. Now, like me, for example, my social media pages are open to the public. So anybody can follow me. Or vice versa. Like I could follow someone that's like, ugh, or I can make my own account and like creep on someone. So the black book has extended
to different platforms for sure.
To different platforms.
Because you have different people, you have like random people on your Snapchat, or you know what? I'm not going to give away my secrets. That's a little too deep into my black book.
Okay. Yeah. So now we know whoever's on her Snapchat. No, I'm just fine. So, okay, but you said, once you burn your little black book, you've raised your standards. So my question to you is, are you in an age where you said like this to your little black book? Here, let me
think something.
I'll just throw something real quick. I want to use props.
Just to be dramatic. I love it. Yeah. You should have been prepared for that.
No.
Yeah, definitely. So what also sparked it was prior to us talking, I was talking to my therapist and she was just like, you know what? Let's just go back and forth. Like, it's been a while. We've talked about this subject. Like there's certain things we talk about each week. And she asked me, like, oh, have you been dating anyone? And I said, wow, honestly, I can say no, since I've broken up with Melody's dad. I haven't dated. And before, it was so easy for me to dig into that black book and essentially hit up like whoever, was in there and wasn't in a relationship. And she was like, okay. And she was like, you know what, Jess, that's you actually raising your standards. And I'm like, it just like sunk into me, It's like, fuck, about time. It took 31 years for me to raise the standard. And then I started just thinking, like, I'm not there anymore when I met these people, I'm a totally different person today. And that's what I mean about like not utilizing my black book, because I'm just, I want to attract something I've never attracted before. And so by me going and giving that energy to somewhere where where I'm not at anymore just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and you said something really cool and important is that you're not there anymore. And when we hold on to the past, or like you just said, when I met this particular person, it was during this time, it was during this age, and then life moves on, but we're still in contact. And really, it's like you're reliving the past. We want that emotion. I've read, where when we met those people, but we're not the same age, it's not the same circumstances anymore, and it never will be. Even if we continue with that tie, whatever ties us to whatever connection, um, it's like if you do want to attract uh different things, you have to let go of what doesn't serve you, and you have to make space, because the next person that you attract doesn't deserve for you to be like, I have my little black book at the end of the day, right? Or like I can just hit up one of the past homies, and the new person, I mean, just the whole energy shifts, right? Like you want to attract what you're thinking. You don't want that other person to feel the same. You want that person to be ready and to have space in their life for you. So I think that's just beautiful.
Isn't it? That's legit growth right there. And it trips me out how, like, yeah, even just 6 months ago or like whatever months ago, I've changed, where I just remember thinking like it was so easy for me to fall into old ways. And this time around, I'm like, no. And people are like, oh, aren't you ready to date? And I'm like, honestly, I have like no desire to date anyone. And everyone that I do talk to, I'm just like, I I don't see it, like I'm seeing a lot. I'm not giving the benefit of the doubt anymore. And I think that also comes with like raising your standards and like being mindful of what you want to attract.
And like you say, you're not there yet, or you're not there anymore. And I think that's just the key word, is to like let it go. It's never gonna, it's a fantasy that we have in our head, right? Like whatever connection we're holding on to. And if we keep holding on to it, we're just wasting time. And so I don't know, I think that's really cool. That there is a lot of maturity and being like, no, I'm gonna stay single to figure some stuff out, to make space physically, emotionally, spiritually for a potential relationship, because that's a huge thing, right? And like for me, the longer I've been single, the more I realized how much when you start focusing on yourself for real, like when you really start doing the self-care work and being there and having hobbies like the podcast, it's a hobby, but it's also like a passion, right? There's like a huge energy behind that. And so for me, it's like I don't even have space. It would be unfair for me to bring some, like, knowing, right? And a lot of us don't care. We're lonely, we're horny, we want to settle, we want to have kids or whatever, right? It's so unique for everybody, but it's not for the right reasons sometimes, right? When we do find someone and we're just like, you know what, everyone's doing it, or it's the age, or I want a child, or whatever, I'm lonely or I'm horny. And then we confuse that with, oh, I miss that person. It's just like, no, you don't. You miss those moments, and you need to be strong and mature enough to say, that's in the past. I'm going to put it in the past. I'm going to leave it there so that I can create new opportunities for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because like Erykah Badu song, Bag Lady, like the metaphor behind that song is, it's like bag lady, you know, like you have a lot of baggage, and a lot of us go into relationships with this baggage, and then we expect the other person to solve our problems because it's like we're one now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I always salute the relationships that are long-term that I do know of. I'm like, whoa, because I've never been in a long-term relationship, nor do I know what that would look like. I don't know what that would feel like. And so, because from the relationships that I have had, I could see now, right now, looking back, because I've been single, I've done some work, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's where I missed that red flag, and that's where I missed that red flag. So yeah, I think it's maturity, it's growth, and we need to be conscious of working on our baggage. Like if there's the fact that you're doing therapy, to me, that's like, if I were a guy, I'd be like, that's hot because of my maturity level. Now I'm like, good, she's digging into her traumas. Not that she hasn't figured out, not that she will just because she's doing therapy, but she gets that she does have trauma. We all do. And she's open to looking into it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like do therapy to get a date with Jessica, but do therapy to get a date with Jessica. I'm gonna be watching for you guys. I'm like her big sister, so don't fuck with her.
I know, seriously. It's an interview through Cindy to get to me. If she doesn't like you, forget it. Just don't even
And
try.
I'm like really fucking violent. I'm the crazy family member. Ask anybody.
I know. Everyone will
never know what you're
validate
gonna
that. No, but you're absolutely right, Prima, and I hear you. And maturity is a very key term, you know, where I'm I'm more comfortable and ready to let it go. You know, I think before it was really hard. And yeah, those are all insecurities within myself that I would think about those times with that person and it did feel good. Like, okay, I would take me back for a second, but then fast forward when that time happened, it's just like, why am I doing this? You know, like, why am I here? And I just didn't like feeling like that anymore. And I think you have to be at a level of certain maturity to be able to burn your like little black book. And I can honestly say I just let it go.
Yay, you burned your little black book.
Yeah.
Graduation to the next level of your life. And then you wanted to talk about the idea of a soulmate versus a life partner. So what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So then
into that.
it got me thinking, like, what are my beliefs and ideologies and like, what do I see for myself, you know? And I'm definitely like a hopeless romantic. So I love that aspect. But sometimes I think I would confuse the two terms. And so I wanted to like pinpoint and like break down what are these terms, you know? So like soulmate to me is someone who is there and matches a lot of your ideologies, you know, like for example, my soulmate wouldn't be someone who's like religious, right? Because I'm not for that at all. And I'm actually wouldn't want to be with someone whose ideologies are to follow the Bible. So it's matching like 8 out of 10 similarities that build the foundation of your relationship is what I think a soulmate is. And a life partner is someone that you grow with. So like even though I was in my 20s, for example, and I was thinking very differently, a life partner to me is someone who grows into different ideologies with you, you know, that not someone you outgrow and is like, well, we used to have similar ideologies, you know, but now it's like when I'm leaning this way and I'm leaning that way. But a life partner is always on the same road or path as you, if that makes sense.
I want to say that I think with religion, I get what you're saying. You want to have, I don't know, now that I've gotten a little bit older, like for me, soulmate and life partner, now it's changing, but it's so different for everybody. So I'm not saying what I think is right or wrong. but like, for example, I've always thought almost every person I've met was like my soulmate, because it was like that. What is it called? Like the self-fulfilling prophecy. Like you just want to see what you want to see, and then you ignore what you don't want to see. So you're like, yeah, this has to be my soulmate. So that was like really bad. Like I'd be like, yep, yes, yes. And it was just like, why? Why am I weird? And so I learned, right, the hard way. But so I think what is important is the foundation, right? Like you said. And I don't know if being religious, because I'm not religious, but if I meet someone, because I've met people that are very open and understanding, and they're like, you do you, but we kind of connect sometimes spiritually, but their language is very like Christian, for example. And I'm just kind of like, well, it's the same message. And if we can just leave it out and no one's trying to convince the other person to do any, like, come on, be open to this, or I don't know, like, let me push this thing on you, because if you don't believe, then we can't be together. I think moving, like the newer generations, religion is kind of fading a little bit. So I think you can make it work. I feel like I've met people, even other women that I look up to, that they're Christian, not Catholic, Christian, because there's a difference. Like there's just a difference. And we just, oh man, we connect on a super deep spiritual level, but they're Christian, and I would never, you know what I mean? And so we just had a great connection, and they were religious and I wasn't. So I don't know. I just wanted to say that I think you can there's people out there that are mature and open, and that are okay with like, I believe in this and I'm confident in what I believe in, and I'm okay, right? When you're okay with yourself, you're like, you believe whatever the hell you want, like as long as there's a mutual respect.
Yeah, and I think that's true for non-romantic relationships, like casual relationships, like friends, family members, or whatever. But when it comes to romantic relationships, I think like a soulmate would want similar ideologies, because I think if not, it'd be a very tough like conflict of interest, because a lot of their morals and principles and the way they live their life is different than someone who has a totally different perspective on the other end of the spectrum. And then I think that doesn't build a solid foundation. I think that builds cracks in it. You know what I mean? If you don't have very similar ideologies to start off with. And yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. And I think like 8 out of 10, you can be different. So like those two, maybe religion is the two for you, but I don't see it working out if they don't have similar ideologies.
Well, you're wrong. No, like I said, I mean, it depends, right? Like if that's important to you, to me, it really, it's different for everybody. So you have to find out what will work and what won't. And you have to define that and know it, so that, like me and you, I feel like I can disagree, but that's my personal, you know what I mean? That's something very personal. Like, well, I could date someone who's religious, just as long as it's not something they're pushing on me, like I said. Yeah. But for you, it's probably like, no, it's more of a harder, like, no.
Yeah. So, and those are my standards. So that's why, like, I didn't have standards before. Before I would be like, I love you. And I just hug them and love them with all conditional. But moving forward, I need these answers, these questions answered from them. And if I don't like it, then I think I'm settling or like looking in the wrong direction. And so when I'm looking for a soulmate or like life partner, I think about these things, because I'm just like, I don't want to waste my time, because I've done that before. And we've had very different ideologies before, or even our mindset, our perspective, our outlook in life was totally different. So when you're looking for these things in a person, I think I just hear these terms thrown very often, like, oh, that's my soulmate, or oh, that's my life partner, and it's kind of hard to pinpoint like where I believe in, but that's where I'm at right now. Just like identifying and understanding what I want for myself, and then just like trying to communicate that with like my next romantic partner. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think that's important, that everybody finds out what they want, not what they think they want, what's something that's going to make you happy. And especially if you're single, right? Because if you're in a relationship, I was reading this article that said, even if you are in a relationship in our new day and age, you can still change up what a relationship looks like. You don't have to, no one really knew what was happening. Marriage happened in the beginning so that families can unite for a profit. It wasn't for love. So it's not like we started with the foundation of respect, right? And then there was like the wife roles, the husband roles, that sometimes is still being practiced today, but that might not apply, right? Like I think I hear more now, like people who are saying like, no, I don't want to get married. Where before, I know a lot of people who do still, which I think whatever you want to do, like you said, make sure it aligns with the other person. But there's also nothing wrong with recreating a relationship to look like something that you both or more, because you can be into like, not just a monogamous relationship. But yeah, like all of those other different options. But yeah, so I think it's just important for me. The biggest thing is respect. And I think when like if someone's respecting themselves, they're taking care of themselves. I use this terminology a lot with my daughter because she's like, why can't I have sugar? And she always has sugar to describe something sweet or with sugar in it. But it's just funny because to me, it's sugar. So like if it's soda or juice, that's sugar. So she's just learned to identify sugar in something. She's like, can I have some sugar? That's just what she goes for. And I'm like, what? Who says that? But obviously she learned that from me. But, or she'll be like, Mom, why can't we ever buy Lucky Charms? And I'm just like, because I'm not strong enough. Not even me though, but I'm just like trying to set up our environment for success. If there's Lucky Charms, hot Cheetos, soda in my household, chances are we're going to be tempted to touch it, right? And so I try to tell her, because we're respecting our bodies. When you eat out, when you're with, another family member or whatever, and they offer you something with sugar, take it, do what you got to do. Like, I don't have rules, but in the house, there's rules, right? And it's about respecting our body. Or like if she raises her voice at me, like it's quick. It's just like, whoa, that's not respectful language. Am I raising my voice at you? Or I'll understand she's frustrated and I'm just like, let it out, but just don't raise your voice. You don't have to talk to me like that. And it's about respect. Or like when her and Melody were playing, kids, they're playing and they're fighting and they're playing and they're fighting, and that's the age. And so, or even when she's with her other cousins, I'm like, are you playing respectfully? Are you being respectful? Because that's what's going to get her better relationships. If she understands what respect is, and acceptance and all of that, then she'll know. And yeah, I think for me, a big one is like to be respectful of the other person. That's one for me.
That's a good one. Mine has always been to struggle with like communication. So I work on that. But even so, like when I'm thinking about like going out there, like I have a whole application already. And when people are not ready or intimidated to fill it out, then I'm just like, okay, then maybe we're not matched and compatible. But I'm just always
scan this code on my phone, log in. If you don't hear back within 48 hours, it's a no. It's a hard no.
I know, it's so bad right now. I'm in like a dark place.
I also don't know how I feel about the idea of a soulmate or a life partner. If you're single in your 30s, 40s, 50s, because what if you fell in love once when you were 20? And what if, right, we said it before, like, do you think you just fall in love once in life? Like, no. So then that's why I kind of started to question the idea of a soulmate, to maybe that we can have more than one ties with people on earth, like more than one very strong romantic relationship. So that's another reason. There's this author called Isabel Allende. My mom reads her a lot. She's like Central or Southern American. I can't read her books. They're so difficult. My mom has to like read it with me if I'm going to read it. But anyway, she is like a hardcore feminist, and she's just like, I've fallen in love so many times and I can't wait to do it more. And like that really touched me. I don't know. I feel like, oh, okay, I didn't know you can fall in love more than once, or you have to be very secure and fearless about it, right? If you're thinking in that way. If you found your life partner, that's also beautiful. I think sometimes that happens, so I'm not saying like if someone's in a long-term loving committed relationship that you might not work it out. I don't know. I just think of my brothers a lot where I'm like, they have it figured out. So I'm not talking about them. There could be other, what is it? There could be other, just like, it doesn't have to be the traditional life partner. Although like I said, I think that is very beautiful. Like The Notebook, Ryan Gosling, Rachel McAdams, like the fact that they're not together today still messes with my head. And like, he's with Ava Mendes, who I love, but the moment they got together, I was like, what? I just can't. The Notebook is so beautiful. And like, who doesn't want that fairy tale relationship? So like I said, for those of people that have found it, that's awesome. But I also think that there's other ways to do it.
Correct. And that's what I wanted to emphasize. It's like, there's not a one solution that fits all. And I think you and I are very similar in that aspect, because we have fallen in love several times since like we've learned what the word love meant. Like,
right? I'm like, oh, I think I love him. Like, no, you don't know who that person is.
I love Lamp.
I started young, kinder.
Oh yeah, that is super young. Damn. With the TA?
No, with like other kids in my class. And I wasn't in love, or even looking back, but I was just kind of like, yeah. No, I love him. Like, okay. Good luck, little girl.
I know. But those are good points. That's why I'm always also questioning it. And I love these ideas. I love talking about it, because it's just like, these terms to me just tie in with the word love. And I love love, right? We've had a whole episode on that. And I'm also still trying to like figure out these terms and like what applies to me and what it just correlates like with my standards, you know? And I don't know
what
how I
does
feel
it mean
about
for
these.
you? Sorry. I said, and what does that mean for you, right? Like, you're identifying like,
exactly.
Oh, I guess that means that for me.
Exactly. So we don't have it figured out, but this is where we are in our lives. And when we talked about the little black book, it's just sparking all these thoughts in my head. And it's just like a ripple effect. You know, it started with one person, then my sister, and then like thinking about it for here on the podcast. And I'm like, fuck, I'm going through some shit right now, because I have no idea. Like, I'm literally threw the little foundation of a book I had, threw it out, and now I'm starting from square zero, you know? And now I'm writing new rules for myself, which I'm pretty excited for. And when I'm ready, I'll go out there. But right now I'm just like, yeah, the thought of it is just crazy to me. Like, no, I'm not even there yet.
Yeah. And I think what's important to highlight is that you can now compare how mature you are now versus when we look back and think like, what the hell was I thinking? And I don't think there's anything wrong. You said another thing earlier that I say sometimes that I think we shouldn't say is, finally, I learned this lesson. You know, because what if someone learned, like my mom sometimes she'll be like, oh my God, I'm already 60 something and I'm just now getting it. And I'm like, that's still important, because the moment you make peace with things, you understand things, that's to me is like, you're setting yourself more free from the chains psychologically that we've been conditioned to believe in. So I don't think, I say the same thing. I feel the same way. Like, why did it take me to get in my 30s to become a mom, to really learn how to value myself? But it's like, that shouldn't matter, you know, like we shouldn't compare, like, yeah, of course it probably would have felt better, but I think in our destiny, spiritually, I think we were meant to go through everything we've gone through.
Correct. Yeah.
So I've had it, I don't know, I feel like I'm very thankful. Like I've made peace with every single thing that's happened. It takes a lot of work, but I can get, like, I needed to go through that level of hurt or pain or stress or whatever, of heartbreak, in order for me to regrow into the butterfly, right? It's transformative. You're no longer in that state where you need a little black book and it's like, you're like, I don't, where's this new person coming from? That's awesome.
I know. I'm really starting to get to know her. I'm like, who am I? Even I'm like, I don't even know who I am sometimes. Like, I don't recognize myself.
And give yourself a lot of love, a lot of patience, talk to yourself pretty.
But I like what you said when you said we finally, right? And when you said that, it just reminds me of something I always think about. I don't know if we've talked about it, Prima, because we have so many conversations and half the time we're faded. But
I'm not.
Did you ever learn about like Plato's allegory of the cave? Do you recall that? And when I say finally, I mean it like I'm finally out of the cave. I'm finally seeing the light in certain aspects. And it's tough because if you guys heard of like allegory of the cave, it's like,
well, can you just like explain it? Because I learned that in like philosophy class, and I was like, I didn't get it. I didn't get it until way later in life.
So it smacked you and you're like, oh shit, this is what that meant.
Because I tell you something real quick? The teacher, it was like a winter community college class. So it's one of those like 4 hours. It was weird. And I loved it. But I was like 19, 20, I didn't. And then we kept arguing. He's like, is a table if one of the legs comes off? And we're like, yeah. And I would never understand, like, he didn't connect with us. He was like, you're not getting it. And then he's like, okay, what about a person? If you chop off their arms, are they still Cindy? And I'm like, yeah. And then they're like, well, what if you chop off your head? And I'm like, he's onto something. Cause then no, I can't be, because that's my central nervous system. He's like, well, yeah, don't think like scientific. Yeah, but that's why I was like, I passed, but I never knew what the hell was going on in that class. Philosophy is deep. I love it.
I know. I really enjoyed it. I took a philosophy class too, and I learned it there, but in other aspects of like psychology and like my other studies. But I first learned about it in a philosophy class, and it's Plato's theory or idea of like how life is, right? So it's these men who are chained in this dark cave where there's no light, and they're facing forward at this wall. They're chained by their neck and their hands, so they can't move.
And that's all they've ever known.
Yeah, that's all they've ever known. And then in behind them is a fire that creates a shadow where there's people like walking around with like puppets. So they think the shadows are real and they're actual real things, but the other do they know they're just shadows. So then one day one of the guys breaks free and he gets out and he makes his way out of the cave, and he saw sunlight and he saw the sun, he saw the clouds, he felt the grass, took in a deep breath and was like, whoa, so down there what we were living is not actually real, it's just this illusion, or however you want to interpret it, right? Everyone can interpret it very differently. So he went back down to tell his friends, like, hey guys, like, I'm gonna let you out because this isn't real. What we're looking at, these shadows don't exist. It's this and that. And he told them what they were. And he saw the light. And then they were like, no, we're gonna stay here. We're fine. And so when I say finally, I always like think of that aha moment. Like, I'm finally out of whatever ideology is my simple cave, like I think we all have like our own caves of ideologies. And again, you could interpret this however you want, but when I finally get out and I see it so different, like a complete 360, I'm like, oh shit, I was living in the cave, and that metaphor always stood with me because looking back in my life, I've been in the dark for a lot of the time. And when I'm finally out and I see something like the fog is lifted or whatever, like other analogies you want to use, those moments really resonate with me and I feel the growth. And that's how I feel now. I finally broke the chains of this little black book of all these insecurities, and I'm finally out in the lights when it comes to relationships. And I have standards, I'm not going to go back to those chains that like kept me down.
And I think it's cool also to mention like how the ones that are like, no, we're going to just stay in here. People will accept the reality. Like they don't think that they have the power to change it. They're like, no, you're crazy, because they were afraid. It wasn't, I mean, you said it quickly, but like they were like, what are you talking about? Like, no way, it's dangerous. And because they've accepted their comfort. Anybody who walks out of the cave is going to be like, there's no way that's better than going out. But that guy finally took the step to be brave enough to go outside of the cave. He saw there's nothing. Not only is there nothing to be afraid of, there's like a whole world that they're missing out on because they wanted to stay in their comfort zone. Right. And that's a big one, right? Because we do it in relationships, we do it for traveling. Like a lot of people, I tell my nieces, like, come visit me, and they won't get on a plane by themselves. And I remember my mom used to send me to Mexico, like at the age of 8 by myself with like 4 big luggages, transferring from another plane to a different, like it was just so dramatic. And I'm like stressed out just thinking about like, how did I do that and not get kidnapped or lost? But
And you're
we just
terrible with directions. Let me just throw
I
that out
know.
there.
I feel
You
like
have
I just would
no
follow
sense.
I don't know how I did it.
I know.
Like I had to change planes. You couldn't give me a direct flight. I was 8. But anyways, it was 4. There was no limits on the bags at that time. You know, you could just, and my mom, you know, when you go to Mexico, you just pack, you just send stuff. So anyway, but there's that fear, and it literally just takes that moment of stepping out and realizing, oh, it's not even that scary, right? And so like I like also the analogy of the people who are like, no, we're going to stay here. That's the people who limit themselves around us. They settle, like my grandparents. You know, my grandparents, I don't think ever really truly loved themselves. They got married because of convenience. At the time, it was like, it was a way out for women. My grandma's from Juarez, and they were poor. And she was just like, okay, this guy works and he's going to take me to the United States. So, and I'm 15. My grandma was 15. Like, what? Anyways, they never established no type of respect. But, you know, like they settled. And then that generation, there was a lot of settling because they needed a way out.
Mm-hmm.
And some women and men probably do that today, but I think it's important to know you can make a change. Just step outside of your comfort zone. It's going to be uncomfortable, but it's beautiful on the other side. Okay, bye. Just kidding. So I read this cool thing that said, it was on effyblue.com, EFFYBLUE.com. It said, adult intimacy has been overburdened with expectations. We expect our partner to be our lover, best friend, confidant, activity partner, co-parent, and more. It's no wonder we feel weary and skeptical about relationships. This is written by Esther Perel in the book Mating in Captivity. And so I think this is a cool, when I read it, I'm like, yeah, we do expect so much of our partners, where again, if you take care of yourself, if you're doing therapy, you're taking care of yourself, mind, body, and soul, then you're more prepared to enter a relationship because you understand that you're fully responsible for yourself. Mm-hmm. Just because you get with someone doesn't mean that now you share your baggage with them. Like that's your responsibility. Mm-hmm. It's okay that you have baggage, but be on top of your baggage. That has nothing to do with the relationship. And when we expect our partner to be all of these things, like we should never go into a relationship with expectations. Mm-hmm. And I think that's another practice that it's like when we do get together, we kind of like we blend the lines with our individuality and then we become one, which I think is cute and romantic, but something like that wouldn't work for me. Like I have like my own life, my own schedule, my own everything, that when I meet somebody, they have to have that as well, because I wouldn't be able to, I don't, that's not my lifestyle, you know, which there's nothing wrong with, but that's another thing, right? Like that we put too much, like, well, I expect you to bail me out. Like I didn't put you in that situation. Why am I now like I'm inheriting your baggage?
Yeah. Reason 101 why we don't want to get married, because it's just like we haven't found that person. Because I feel like, yeah, it's these expectations of what we're supposed to look like as a certain role, and I don't fit that mold. And these are tough conversations to have, but in the beginning of the relationship and set your standards, you don't set yourself up for failure. So you don't have to just fall into these roles that I think we're being forced to like be molded into. And I don't like that either. I had so many expectations that were implemented on myself that I could recall back, you know, and I'm just like, these are very unrealistic. This is not the way I live my lifestyle, you know, and this is not the way I choose to, and I don't want to. And for a while, I used to think there was something wrong with me, but I think it was those chains, like in that analogy, that were holding me down. Like, well, maybe I should be like this. Well, what's wrong with me? You know, like, why don't I want to stay down here?
Yeah.
And I never had the courage to break the chains before.
And why do you think? Do you think because you wanted to fill a void?
Well, what I would stay because I thought that was like unconditional love. And I don't think that is it. And I'm learning just how barely now how to set boundaries, how to communicate my emotions, and even have control over my own emotions, which I think was a huge issue I had, where I thought like my opinion needed to come out. And now I'm learning, no, it doesn't. I choose and pick my battles.
Yeah. I think one thing that me and you also have in common in our past dating world is that we were chronic daters. Even if we weren't in a long-term relationship, we were always, like you said, the little black book, we were always talking to somebody. We're always emotionally involved with someone, whether that was healthy or not. It was rare for us to take moments, chunks of times where we were just single.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I practiced being single was when I moved out here to Colorado. I was single for maybe like 3 years. I was always still talking to someone. So I wouldn't consider that fully single, but I did give myself that space. I wasn't in a long-term committed relationship. It was just more like dating, like casual dating. Um, and then after I had my daughter was when even the need or want like went away. That at that, I don't know, and like I said, it's very like individual to me. It's very like, that's just who I am. It doesn't mean that you should be single for 4 years. Like, no, but that's where it took me. So I think that's another thing where, when I'm in my 30s, so people are like, oh my God, you're like such a great catch. I can't believe you're single. And it's like, I want to be single and I can still be happy. And people get the wrong idea when I talk to a guy. I feel like you sometimes in the beginning of the Primas podcast, when people would DM us, I'm friendly to women and men. And sometimes even women have felt like, is she hitting on me? And I'm like, no, that's just who I am. Promise. I'm like this with everyone. But or you would be like, ooh, who's that? Prima? And I'm just like, no one. And I would even question myself, like, does this sound weird? Like, am I weird? Or why does everyone question, like, oh my God, you can totally tell you like that guy. Like, I don't like him like that. I don't like giving people the wrong idea. So that's why I was always cautious, like, wait, how is this coming off? And sometimes people would be like my brothers, they would always be like, anytime you talk to a guy like that, just know they're thinking this. And I'm like, and then I had to learn to be like, fuck it. I'm not trying to give that off. If someone perceives me that way, I'm not like I'm not flirty. I'm just nice and I'm friendly. And so sometimes people would perceive that differently. So I try to hide that part. Like, okay, well then I'm not going to talk like that to guys if they think, I don't know what they were thinking, but my brothers would always be like, no, you shouldn't talk like that to guys. If you want to keep them on the friend zone, don't talk like that, And I was always confused because I'm like, that sucks because why can't I just be myself, And so now I'm confident enough to say like this, I'm not hitting on you. I don't want anything to do with anybody. But like that's another thing that I become confident with. Like, no, you can be friendly. And if a guy takes it that way, also learn how to stand up for yourself and put them in their place. Like, hey,
say your boundary.
Set your boundaries that I didn't used to before either. I'd be like, oh, okay, well, they like me. I guess I should like them. Like, no, Cindy, what the hell?
I know. We were so bad, but
we are so horrible.
glad we grew.
See, but that's why I'm like, I think I dated enough. I got it out of my system. Forever. Because I really don't feel the need. So, like I said earlier, we need to look at our relationships, especially you and I, because we're single. So one day we'll be in a relationship again. Me, I'm thinking multiple because I'm following Isabel Allende's footsteps, I feel. I don't know how she had time. I think she waited till her kids got older. How else did she find time? Because I'm like, where? I took a little nap and I overslept earlier. Yeah, so a relationship.
You gotta send me her book. I want to read into her. I'm sure they have translations of her book.
Yeah. She's like a big author, but her books are, is it fiction? Like Harry Potter-ish?
Ooh, those are tough. I'm not a
That's
fan
what
of
I'm
that.
saying. It's not Harry Potter-ish at all.
But it's that type of style.
But it's just like, there's another one she talks about too, that I was trying to read a book in English, and my mom's like, it was too much explaining. My mom's like, you know what? Why don't you move on to like easier authors? Because they have a similar style, like Paulo Coelho and Isabel Allende. My mom like really likes them, but she's like, even for me, it was difficult because they're from different parts of Latin America. So it's not, their Spanish is different and their metaphors are culturally different.
Yes. And we're back.
Okay. And we're live. We said it together because we're so aligned. Okay. So what we were saying before Cindy's internet connection, don't worry, on the 15th, I'm getting like Wi-Fi.
Yay. Finally. Cindy lives like a caveman, so she doesn't have Wi-Fi in her house.
No, I do have Wi-Fi, but I tried adding Wi-Fi to my hotspot on my phone and it doesn't matter. So I'm paying like almost $300 and it still doesn't work.
Yeah, as
So we're gonna
opposed to
try
paying for
something else.
getting a box, you pay $50 a month for that and you have Wi-Fi all the time. That's too much?
Okay, well, we're always gonna do solutions.
Oh, that's right.
Sorry, my internet thing cut us off and like it cut off our connection, you guys. Sometimes that happens because now I'm like, Jessica, why did we do a podcast together again? Just kidding.
Big Brother trying to tear us down.
So it's solutions time. It's solutions time. What about that one?
Oh, I like it.
Okay.
Is it a little voguey?
So yeah, I just came out. I went with it. It happened.
I dig it. You rolled with it.
I rolled with it. So how can we find the one? Just kidding. But more like, how can we put ourselves in a position where we can attract healthy love, right? I was reading on relationshipzen.com how to have a conscious relationship. So I'm gonna just do like a few because there's a bunch, but when you have a conscious relationship, you're in a state of, you feel that you're responsible for your own happiness and stuff, which is kind of similar to the baggage. If you make a mistake, you say, that was my bad, I hurt you, I'm going to fix it. Or if someone brings something up, like you're just 100% responsible for yourself. You know, and I think when we go into relationships, we get proud. We're like, I know I messed up, but I'm not going to admit to it because of that one time. And it's just like, oh, that's playing games.
Yeah. Owning up, accountability. That's a good one.
Yeah. Versus challenging yourself to step up to the plate. Like me, like my relationship with my mom. The other day, so my mom likes to fight with me a lot about Google Maps. She's like, don't go that way, go this way. And I'm like, this is just what Google Maps said is the fastest way to get there. And it's just a dumb conversation. And I'm just kind of like, let it go. Just who cares? And then my mom's like, she's like, and then I'm just kind of like, you know what? Do you want to drive? Let's just, you drive that, I don't care. You can take whatever road you want. And then she's like, no. And she just does like, and I'm just kind of like, okay, mom, well, you know what? I'm not trying to hurt your feelings over this Google Map stuff. It's just the fastest way to get there. So I'm going to follow it. And she's just like, you're too dependent on it. That's so bad. And, it's just like, whatever. But I like to acknowledge, like, mom, I know you're upset. And I just want you to know that wasn't my intention. She still was mad, but I'm owning, let me just own my part of it. I'm not expecting her to own her. She's my mom. In my romantic partner, I am expecting them to own up to like, hey, you fucked up. Like, just own it. There's so much respect in owning, like, that was my bad. Like, I'm going to work on it. So holding yourself accountable.
I like that one. That's a tough one.
You think it's a tough one?
I think it's tough for me right now in the relationship because I feel like, yeah, I'm always the punching bag, or I'm always like, well, it's your fault, Jess. And I'm like, no, I owned mine. You need to own yours. And
okay.
I think it's just a challenging one, I would say.
Yeah. It takes a lot of work. but I think even with my relationship with you in our podcast, right? There's been times where I make mistakes and I say it's for me, right? It's for my own growth, where you're like, why did you do that? And I'm just like, you know what? My bad. I hurt you and I didn't mean to. It's acknowledging it. Like, or maybe one day you'll do something that pisses me off. I'm like, Jessica, what the hell? And it's just as simple as, hey, you know what? I see that you're upset about this. Rewind, my bad. How can we fix this? Because we're gonna hurt each other. Like, that's just what we do. It's miscommunication. But the moment you say, that was my bad, I realize it. Let's talk about it. Oh, that's love. Where you can just be like, let me handle this because it was my fault. So
yeah, definitely. I like that.
yeah.
And mine is, I would say, definitely going back to a lot of what we said in this conversation, is sticking to your standards is one of my solutions. And by that, if you know me, you know I love memes, and like they're my philosophy and models in life. Is like, if the meme came up on my feed, it's a sign, and I'm gonna follow that wholeheartedly. And there was one I saw with like Bob Ross, that guy who paints and is like a fro. He has a fro.
I know who Bob Ross is. He is a spiritual advisor of mine. Okay.
There was a meme made on him where it says like, stop painting the red flags into trees. And that's sticking to your standards. And that's what I was like, that I just gave me the feels when I read that meme. Like, I laughed and cried at the exact same time. That's how much it resonated with me, because it's true. By sticking to your standards, you're going to see those red flags and acknowledge them, and not be like, you know what, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to help that person. And it's like taking accountability or owning it. It's like, that's your baggage and that's his or hers, you know. You don't need to fix anybody. It needs to come from within. And that's what I'm also learning is, you know, we only have control of what we do, but we can always own up to it and explain and communicate our intent, you know, like, my bad, I didn't mean to do that, like Cindy said. And those are really hard. And we're practicing on each other, you know, like establishing this relationship, because we went from family to now business partners, you know, and that's been very challenging because you and I are so different.
Yeah, but thanks to me, the relationship's working. Yeah, so
I'm gonna play the audio of what you sent me earlier. Okay.
Sometimes I get afraid of texting you or doing anything. So I'm like, one day, Jessica's the type to put your shit out on blast. But don't send her anything, guys. She will blackmail the hell out of you. I'm just really comfortable with myself, so I'm just like, I don't care. I know. Because I play around a lot.
I know.
But anyway. That was a good one though, right?
It made me laugh.
So in a conscious relationship, it's a state when you feel that you see each other through compassionate eyes. So also when someone is owning up their mistake, isn't like, yeah, see, I told you. No, it's like, oh shit, like, thank you. That takes a lot to be vulnerable. So seeing that other person as a being, you know, like when I get upset at adults, a psychological trick for me is looking at them as when they were a child, because or 7 or 8 years old. That's when they develop the core of, you know, our behaviors and reactions to stuff.
That like defense mechanism.
In that age. Yeah. Right. And it's unique to everybody. So I can't say that this person's being an asshole because they're doing this, but that person isn't. No, we all manifest our traumas in different ways. So I look at them and I said, this child, or this person was a beautiful, loving child who came into this world to prosper and thrive. And something happened along the lines where they were hurt so badly that now they're pushing that hurt onto others. And so that's seeing someone with compassionate eyes, is saying, all right, I'm going to give you space, or putting a boundary where I'm sorry, but unfortunately we cannot be friends, or we can no longer date. But seeing that person with compassionate eyes, you know, and saying like, it's all good though, like, but I can't allow it, put that boundary up, but also understanding that that's trauma. And sometimes if you settle for when people express their traumas onto you, it just gets worse and worse, and you become the punching bag. You know, a lot of us do.
Those are all my solutions.
I also wanted to say that the goal, is to reach a state of joy, peace, love, and empowerment. In a relationship, the relationships that I've seen that are healthy, both people are at peace, they're empowered, they empower each other to be who they are, or like, you want to go do this, go do it. Don't even worry about it. Don't even worry. That's what you got to do. Go do it. Right. Like there's this other quote that I have in my mirror right now that says, love does not bind. Love sets you free. And Maya Angelou said that her mom told her that once you step out of my doors, like, I think she was 18 and she was like, all right, I'm ready to go off or whatever. Or I don't know. But she said her mom told her, once you step foot outside my door, know that you have been raised. Don't let nobody change you. You know right from wrong. Choose right. Do right. And also know that you can always come back. And I want to instill that in peace, like, do my best while she's with me. And then when she's ready to spread her wings in our culture, we're very like, no, you got to stay here. Don't go nowhere. And I'm not like that. And I don't want to practice, I'm very much about, I like to feel free in any relationship. Not free like a lot of people in the past that are insecure will take that as, oh, you want to be out there,
you want to be
on these
single
streets and be free. Yeah. And it's just like, no. I don't like where the idea of all of the, like, where are you at? What time? When you get in a relationship,
or confinement.
The controlling aspect. I'm just like, nah, I can't do that. And so love doesn't bind. Love sets you free, and it allows you to be free. It allows you to be who you are. And you can only see another person 100% for who they are and accept them when you've done that on yourself. Then you understand how important it is for that person's individuality to also have a place in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So
well said, Prima.
I wish I had like those. Makes me feel important.
The one eye like glass. What is it called? Unifocal?
Yeah. The little emoji.
Like Monopoly guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna get you one.
Okay,
I'm gonna get you one of those
one?
with a little mic.
Oh yeah. The little mic was cool. And she's just like, speaking to the mic. Consciously invite stillness into your life. So Jessica's starting to do that now, where she's like, okay, there's times where I can be alone, and that's okay, and it feels good, or you're inviting like peace into your life, because I've always been like this, especially when I was in LA. When I was in LA, I was a part of everything, and I didn't really have time for my relationships. We still made it work. But it's like, that wasn't mature. That was young me being like, yeah, I can do 110 things, stay up super late, wake up horrible, get bad grades. And now it's like, no, that's, you want to invite peace into your life so that whoever does come in, it's a calm situation. And that's hard for people to do, especially if you're in a big city like LA, because there's a lot of distractions. Agree. I'm sure it's a thing out here too in Colorado, but if you invite stillness, you also invite that from a partner, right? Like, where there's going to be moments where you guys are cool with just being still in that peace.
Well said.
So
great topic.
Yeah, I guess burn your little black book. What's that Sierra song? Like, not step up. Never mind. Remember, she has a song that says
goodies?
Something about step up your game. No, after, like, when she met her current partner.
I don't know.
Level up. Level up. Know that you can do better. Don't be afraid of being alone. And if you're in a long-term relationship, know that in your relationship, don't be afraid of trying something new. Like, if you guys met when you were in your 20s, in your 30s, you're going to feel different. In your 40s, you're going to feel different. In your 50s. And why not be like, okay, well, let's change up what can work better for both of us, like rewrite the contract or whatever. Well, that was us. Please leave comments. DM us.
Stop doing your ASMR voice. Yeah, you are.
I like to sneak it in at the end.
I know. You're so annoying.
They do this a lot too. Can you hear that? Have you seen those ASMR videos?
I don't like them. It's not calming or relaxing to me at all. So stop it.
It is to me. I like when ants are walking on wood and they're like tearing the wood apart, but it's like micro sounds and it's like it's
That's crazy. I can't believe it goes that deep.
Oh, it gets weird.
I'm sure
because YouTube will start sending me things where I'm like, whoa, I don't need people thinking I'm into this shit. There's just levels to ASMR where I'm like, why do people watch this? It's creepy as hell. But I'm into just the regular stuff, guys. Like we like the slime. Like my daughter, that knocks her out, and it's literally makeup and slime, and then just that's it.
The beats, like melody. Yeah. Sometimes if I struggle, I'll put that on for her too. Even it knocks me out sometimes. I'm like, dude, these videos are like 10 minutes, and then I wake up, I'm like, oh shit, it's only 8 minutes, and like I fell asleep, like who knows how quick.
Yeah.
The slime ones are good though.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Leave us feedback. Follow us on Instagram at Primas Podcast, on YouTube at Primas Podcast, and we love you guys. Thank you so much for rocking with us.
Bye. Bye. And we're done.
I don't think that's a thing.